next step in company accounts after forfeiture is they are going to reissue the share. So forfeited shares can be reissued by the company at any price, but the condition is the reissue price must not be less than the amount unpaid on the forfeited shares. Right? So there are three different ways of reissuing the shares. So the first is going to be reissue at par. That means for cash. So bank account debtor to equity share capital. Remember, when it's reissuing, you're going to receive cash. You're going to receive the capital in the form of a cash. Therefore, bank account will be there. Next is the reissue at a premium. So if the shares are being sold at a premium, then the reissue is going to be at a premium. So bank account data premium is always credited. So share capital account data, share capital account to securities premium account. Next is if the reissue is going to happen at a loss. So bank account data, forfeited shares account data to equity share capital is going to be the three types of journal entries or the three ways of reissuing the forfeited shares. So apart from this reissue, you have something known as a capital reserve. So let's go see what that capital reserve is. So capital reserve is nothing but if the reissue price of the shares is more than the amount unpaid on the forfeited shares, then it results in a profit of reissue. So that profit has to be accounted for as capital reserve. So the journal entry is forfeited shares account data to capital reserve, that is profit on reissue. So your narration is going to be profit on reissue. So there are two ways of calculating this profit, which we will be dealing it in the sums. Let's look into a forfeiture and reissue sum. So this is Gautam Limited. So that is the company's name, Gautam Limited. Forfeited 500 equity shares of 10 each. So the number of shares forfeited was 500 and the face value of those shares were 10, which was held by Raghav. So Raghav is the shareholder of whose share was forfeited. Raghav did not pay the call money of rupees 2. That is, this is going to be the final call. So the final call money of rupees 2 was not paid by him, whereas it is assumed that the other rest of the 8 rupees is being paid. The shares were forfeited and reissued to Madan. So shares were reissued to Madan at rupees 8. So the entire 500 shares are being reissued to Madan at rupees 8. So we must give the journal entries for the forfeiture and for the reissue. So the journal entries for the forfeiture, so for our reference I have written here forfeiture of shares is share capital account data to share final call account, because the final call only is not being paid, to shares forfeited. So the number of shares dealt with here is 500 shares and the share capital value is 10 rupees. Face value 10, out of which 2 is not paid for the final call. So 500 into 2. So 10 minus 2 is going to be 8. So when you multiply and write it, 500 into 10 is going to be 5,000. 502 is going to be 1,000 in the credit, and 500 into 8 is going to be 4,000 in the credit. So 4,000 plus 1,000 will give me 5,000. So being 500 shares forfeited. So this is a simple forfeiture entry. Next we are going to go into the reissue entry. So the reissue of shares entry is going to be bank account data, shares forfeited account data to share capital. If you closely have a look, this is the exactly opposite entry of the share forfeiture. That is, in share forfeiture, capital is debited, but in reissue of shares, capital is credited. Share forfeiture is credited, whereas over here shares forfeiture is debited. So the exact amount of 500 shares is going to be reissued. So 500 into the reissue value is 8 per share. So we are going to receive 500 into 8 rupees from the shareholder, that is Mr. Madan. Then next it's going to be 500 into, and leave it as blank. Now the share capital is going to be 10 rupees always, because here too share capital we did with 10 rupees for the shares forfeited. So the same 10 is going to come here. So 10 minus 8 is going to be 2. So when you multiply and write, 500 into 8 is going to be 4,000. 502 is going to be 1,000. 500 to 10 is going to be 5,000. So this is the reissue of shares. So after reissue of shares, we are going to compare and see whether there is a profit in the forfeiture and reissue. So when you compare and see, the forfeiture value is only 4,000 here, but here it is going to be 1,000. So when you compare and see, there is a difference of 3,000 rupees, which is a profit on forfeiting and reissuing the share to the next shareholder. So for that, we are going to give a capital reserve journal entry. So the entry for profit on reissue is going to be shares forfeited account data to capital reserve. So it is going to be 4,000 of what is being forfeited minus 1,000 of shares forfeited which has been entered in the reissue. So 4,000 minus 1,000 is going to be 3,000 rupees as a profit on reissuing the shares.